Thank you very much, Dr. Uma. Good morning, colleagues, once more. I must say that Dr. Onyait has clearly explained the standards and guidelines for external quality assurance agencies, such as the National Council for Higher Education. What I'm going to do is highlight other agencies in the region and also refer you to the Inter-University Council for Higher Education instrument that explains the different higher education councils and commissions in the region. And then I will conclude by highlighting that the Inter-University Council for Inter-University Council for East Africa is also a quality assurance agency for that matter. So, just a quick overview of what Dr. Onyait has highlighted is that Part C of the African Standards and Guidelines for Quality Assurance focuses on internal quality assurance of quality assurance agencies. So it means that the quality assurance is not just only for universities, that the national councils and commissions equally have to ensure quality of their own so that they can be able to ensure quality of the higher education institutions. So this is the focus of this particular Part C. It is intended to be used by the quality assurance agencies themselves to ensure the quality of their own activities, as Dr. Onyait highlighted. It can also be used by these agencies to conduct internal self-assessment as well as external assessment of the agency by peers. I know Dr. Onyait has moved, but in the afternoon perhaps you can discuss with him whether the National Council has conducted a comprehensive internal self-assessment of its own. And as key stakeholders, you and me, we should be involved in assessing the National Council for Higher Education. That's what these standards and guidelines require. That we, as stakeholders, we should be able to assess the National Council for Higher Education of its own activities, because we're internal part of the quality assurance system of the council. The Part C provides for 9 standards and several guidelines that Dr. Onyait has clearly explained. And I'm just highlighting these 9 key standards and guidelines, or their key requirements. He has done us a good job by going through each of these and explaining the key principles and key guidelines that define this. The legal status, it must be clearly defined. The mandate of these councils and commissions must be clearly defined, and that they must have powers, legal powers, to execute what they do. Second is that its mission and vision must be clearly published. We must know, all the stakeholders, when I say we, especially the higher education institutions, we ought to know the vision and the mission of the National Council for Higher Education and other regulatory bodies like the commissions in the region. The governance structure and the management of these institutions is also required to be clearly defined, well laid out structures. It must have a governing board, council in our case here, or a commission, and that commission or council must have also other subcommittees to effect its operation. And Onyait highlighted, for instance, the Quality Assurance Committee of the National Council, the Planning and the Finance Committee of the National Council, and then the main National Council itself as a council, as a body. The fourth one is the independence of the agency. And this is a very critical matter. Independence of the organization, free from influences, free from pressures, external pressures. But we do know, both here in this country and outside, that these agencies sometimes receive a lot of pressure from politicians or from political powers. You see the advantage of not being in the organization, so I speak freely as such. So I am immune because I am not a staff of the National Council. So there is pressure, and there's no doubt about that these institutions receive pressure. But what these guidelines and standards are saying is that they must act independently, regardless of these political pressures that come on these organizations. You may, for instance, recall in the last 2 weeks, there has been a lot of debate and discussion about a graduate from Ugandan University. Have you read that story? Which one? The Kenyan story about Team University and a graduate. You have followed that? You must follow, actually. That's what I'm saying. You must follow this story because it has a lot to do with the quality assurance systems in our country and in our higher education institutions. I'm not questioning the quality assurance system of Team University, but I'm saying the fact that that matter has arisen, it is asking us and asking Team to explain this internal quality assurance system from admission to graduation. And I can tell you there's a lot of political pressure on that case. Why? Because that graduate is what? Is a political candidate. So when I say that these agencies are not free from political pressure, now you understand. There's a lot of pressure. Kampala University, you had that case of Jogo. Huh? A lot of pressure. So these agencies are not free. There is always a lot of pressure. But the standards are requiring the agencies to act independently, both in their operations, in their decisions, and in their conduct, and in their final judgment. But the final judgment can be contested in courts. And that is the case now in Kenya. The Commission for University Education in Kenya issued a statement regarding this graduate. But that statement is being challenged in courts of law in Kenya. Very interesting. So it can be challenged. The fifth standard regards policies, processes, and activities. And Onyaiti has already explained very clearly the required procedure for monitoring, procedures for grant of charter, procedures for revocation of license, and so on and so forth. So internally, these agencies need to define these procedures, policies, guidelines very clearly, and publish them so that they are well known. 6 is internal quality assurance system, that the policies and processes of these agencies need to be subjected to internal quality assurance system. Finance and human resources, he has explained very elaborately. The agencies must have adequate human resources to execute their activities. They must have adequate financial resources to be able to execute their mandate more effectively. I am not sure whether the National Council has sufficient funding because they have always pride of inadequate funding of their activities. Benchmarking, networking, and collaboration. I want to emphasize this component in regards to the region. All the national councils and commissions in East Africa, they have a memorandum of understanding of working together. That's part of the collaboration and networking among themselves. For instance, agreement for mutual recognition of qualifications. So that's why the Commission for University Education in Kenya can write to the National Council for Higher Education and ask about an issue of a graduate from one of the universities in Uganda. That's part of their agreement. That's part of their collaboration among themselves as such. So that the qualifications that are obtained in Uganda can be recognized in Kenya, can be recognized in Tanzania, can be recognized in Rwanda, and so on and so forth. But the last one, for me, is the most important. And I really want to ask the National Council to pay attention to this. Periodic review of its own agency. It should undergo periodic self-assessment and external assessment. I returned from Ivory Coast 2 weeks ago, Abidjan, and we're having a continental meeting on HAQAA, the same HAQAA too. The Inter-University Council for East Africa is a member of the advisory board of HAQAA too. So the executive secretary asked me to represent him in that meeting. And in that very meeting, we received a report of the implementation of particularly this standard for the national councils and commissions in Africa in a pilot survey. So the national councils and commissions in Africa, one from West Africa, one from East Africa, one from Southern Africa, and one from North Africa, were subjected to first internal self-assessment, and then they are being subjected to external peer assessment. And external peer assessment is coming from the European Quality Assurance Network and the International Network of Higher Network of Higher Education Quality Assurance Agencies, INQUAI. So those two agencies are sending experts to assess, as external bodies, to assess the internal quality assurance systems of the agencies. That is what I want to see in ours too. Now I'm lowering my voice.
Why?
For diplomatic purposes.
Who should be ahead first?
So, having highlighted those standards and giving some highlights from the East African perspective, I want to say that the East African Community Partner States have established quality assurance agencies. All of them, the 6. Of course, now we have 7 countries. Congo is yet in the process of full integration with the community, but the 6 countries that we have been already working with have established quality assurance agencies. The National Commission for Higher Education, Burundi, the Commission for University Education in Kenya, the Higher Education Council, HAQAA, of Rwanda, the Tanzania Commission for Universities in Tanzania, and of course the National Council for Higher Education in Uganda. These 5 are well established, I must say, and they are functional, and they have been in operation for some years now. The oldest of these is the Kenya, the Commission for University Education in Kenya, which used to be called the Commission for Higher Education in Kenya. That's the oldest, established in 1985. Followed by Uganda, which was established in 2001, followed by Tanzania, which was established in 2005, and followed by Rwanda, and then Burundi, and the most recent, which was established late last year, is the National Council for Higher Education of the Republic of South Sudan. It is still in infancy. It has very limited staffing and limited capacity. It is still operating within the Ministry of Education, but it has already begun the process of establishing a functional national quality assurance agency. I want to refer you to this instrument, the Inter-University Council for East Africa Handbook, Volume 5. I know you are aware of Volume 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, now I'm telling you that it's Volume 5. Volume 1 and 2 relates to what?
Program.
Program assessment.
And administration.
Volume 3 relates to
Institutional.
institutional assessment. Volume 4 relates to
Internal quality assurance. Self-assessment.
I'm looking at my students
Yeah.
and they're not responding.
Internal.
Like this young man, like Angela and
They are still young. They are still
Amina
young. They are young.
and
They are family.
Habib, Mandela, and David,
This one is
and Farida.
Yeah.
These are my students of national multiplication training. And remember, the subject of our training was what? Internal quality assurance systems. And that was volume what?
Volume 4.
Volume 4. And we circulated. Now you're not telling me. Okay. So that, by the way, that volume 4 is extremely important for us. If you are working in quality assurance unit, you must use that handbook because it helps you to establish an internal quality assurance system. Especially I'm addressing myself now to my 2 new colleagues. Please refer to that volume 4 when you're establishing your internal quality assurance system. The kind of activities that you need to do in quality assurance work, they are all defined there. How the processes are operating, how you can establish your structure, and so on and so forth. So that is volume 4. Now volume 5 is on the quality assurance agencies. I just want to show you briefly this volume 5. I was privileged to lead the team that developed this volume 5 with my colleague whom we just remembered, Rispa, who was representing Kenya. Uganda was represented by Dr. Pius. Rwanda was represented by Dr. Abdallah. Burundi was represented by Dr. Bigirimana. Of course, Professor Mike Kuria was there, and Kosam and Juru from the IUCA Secretariat. So this is the volume 5. I am not going to read through it, but it concerns principles, practices, and management of external quality assurance in East Africa. So it's about the principles, the practices, and the management of the quality assurance agencies in East Africa. And I'm saying that I would like you to refer to this for detailed analysis of all the 9 core standards that we were talking about earlier on, the legal mandate of each of these, the mission and the vision of each of these, the governance structure of each of these, the finance and so on. All these have been defined and analyzed extensively, especially of the 5 countries. South Sudan was not yet in when this document was developed in 2015. So it gives a thorough analysis of each of these agencies, and we are going to circulate this handbook. It will be circulated to all of you so that you can make reference to it. But I just want to use the table of content to highlight. So the quality assurance principles and practices in East Africa, that's section 4 is the gist of it. It talks about each of these. As you can see, 4.2, the National Commission for Higher Education Burundi gives its background, the structure of the Burundian education system, the legal framework, the quality assurance tools adopted by this commission, the processes, the QA processes followed by the commission, the management of the decisions of quality assurance by that commission, and so on and so forth. Then 4.3 goes to the Commission for University Education Kenya. It gives a background of the Commission, the legal framework, the governance, the quality assurance tools and instruments, the quality assurance principles, the processes and steps in ensuring quality of university education in Kenya, among others. 4.4 is the Higher Education Council of Rwanda. It gives the background, the legal framework, the governance, the quality assurance tools, and so on and so forth. So it goes on to cover all the 5 councils and commissions. So I am not going to go into the details. There's particularly, you can note down table 7 and table 8. Table 7 and table 8 gives a very good snapshot of each of these commissions and councils within the East African region. Table 7 and table 8 gives a good summary analysis and comparative analysis on each of these key elements of quality assurance agencies in East Africa. So, I go back to my presentation. So, Henry is going to circulate this together with the other documents, including the African standards and guidelines for quality assurance services. Yeah, I also have to put that in here. Yes. So we will circulate, and then you can make reference to it so that you know what is within the region. Finally, I want to briefly talk about the Inter-University Council for East Africa as a quality assurance agency, as a regional quality assurance agency. Right from the start, I want to make this clear that the Inter-University Council for East Africa is different from the national councils and commissions by its mandate. The national councils and commissions have a mandate to regulate the higher education institutions in their country. The Inter-University Council for Higher Education does not have a mandate to regulate, but it has a mandate to guide. In law, those are 2 things. The power to guide and the power to enforce. So the Inter-University Council for Higher Education does not regulate and therefore does not enforce, but it guides. It guides the commissions and guides the higher education institutions within the region. So its mandate is to harmonize the higher education system in East Africa, to promote research in the region, but more particularly to promote quality assurance systems in the East African community. These are making that summary of the 3 key mandates of the Inter-University Council for East Africa. Under each of these, there are so many things that go with it. Harmonization of higher education, there are so many things that go with that. Research is a key component of our mandate, and of course, most of you are aware of the quality assurance processes. And I think most of us have been involved in Inter-University Council for East Africa, mainly with regards to the quality assurance processes. The functions of this agency, the Inter-University Council for East Africa, are well defined in its Act of 2009. And I will highlight some of those functions shortly. So therefore, by all standards, the Inter-University Council for East Africa is a quality assurance agency, a regional quality assurance agency with a clearly defined mandate by its act. It has vision and mission. It has governance and management structure. We have the executive board, which is the top organ, and it has quality assurance committee. We have the higher education, the common higher education area committee. We have scholarship and mobility, students mobility committee, planning and management committee. So we have committees that are part of the structure of the management and the governance of the Inter-University Council for East Africa. And all these are defined within the Act and within its statutes. It has policies, procedures for internal use, and because it is an agency of the East African community, So all the policies, the procedures, and the guidelines of the East African community apply to the Inter-University Council for East Africa. So I am an employee not only of the Inter-University Council for East Africa, but I'm also an employee of the East African community. I should be enjoying
Diplomats.
but because I'm in my own country, I cannot enjoy those diplomatic status, except a few which are guaranteed for nationals within the country. But my colleagues from Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, they enjoy all the diplomatic immunities and privileges as such, because it is an agency of the East African community. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to emphasize this, that when we mapped out in the entire global higher education quality assurance system, the Inter-University Council for East Africa is the only regional body that has a legal mandate to guide on quality assurance. It's the only one. It's the only one. And now we have realized that we have been taking it for granted, and yet we have this privileged status. Southern Africa, where SADC is, they have SARUA. It's not an agency of SADC. So it's not established by law. In Anglophone Africa, you have what they call CAMES. CAMES is in French. I don't want to pretend to know French. It is also an association. In North Africa, they have the Arab Association of Quality Assurance Agencies, and it's not established by law. So when we mapped global, we realized that the Inter-University Council for East Africa is the only regional body. And that's why we have had the leverage really to do what we have been doing within the region. Very easily compared to the other regions in Africa. And that's why the continental efforts in harmonizing quality assurance are always benchmarking with the Inter-University Council for East Africa. So when you hear when I say RISPA was the lead person for the development of the African standards, it's because of the East African rich experience in this process. So that is the Inter-University Council for East Africa as a regional quality assurance agency. I will emphasize again, the Inter-University Council for East Africa does not regulate. It does what? It guides. It provides guidance. It establishes frameworks to guide higher education institutions. It establishes framework to guide the national councils and commissions within the region, but does not regulate. That's why it does not accredit institutions. But we are already moving forward to another level of accrediting programs, regional accreditation of programs. This is something that I want to let you know in advance, but it's something that is coming. Now, the regional accreditation of program is not going to be the way the national councils do. The national councils have a legal mandate to regulate and accredit the program, to run legally. Now, the Inter-University Council for Higher Education would like to add a step forward, a step above the national commissions and councils, to accredit a program that is accredited at the national level, regionally, on quality, on basis of quality. That yes, your program meets the national requirements, it is legally recognized, but we want to define, we want to accredit it on the point of quality. And therefore we will give a quality seal for regionally accredited programs. We have already received so many universities expressing interest to have their programs regionally accredited, because it raises the bar higher. It is expected by many international bodies, So we want to support our institutions in the region by moving forward to regional accreditation of programs, to give a quality seal, not a legal seal, a quality seal. but we work with the national commissions and councils in that regard. So a program to be accredited at the regional level must be accredited at the national level as first requirement. So it is legally recognized, and then it can move to the regional level for quality accreditation. So that is something that is coming, but it's still within the mandate of guiding, not regulating the higher education. The Act, I said the Act of IUCA is the legal body that defines the functions of this council. And Section 4 of this Act provides that the Inter-University Council shall contribute in developing quality assurance processes. Remember when Nyait was talking about the 9 standards, the emphasis that for an agency to qualify to be a quality assurance agency, its focus must be on quality assurance. And so the Inter-University Council for East Africa's focus is on quality assurance. And particularly, its functions defined under sections 6C include, for instance, the facilitation of harmonized entry standards in partnership with partner states accreditation councils, examination boards, and relevant university bodies. The Inter-University Council for East Africa does not work in isolation. It works with the national councils and commissions in whatever it does. In fact, the executive directors, executive secretaries of all the commissions and councils in East Africa are permanent members of the IUCA Quality Assurance Committee and Higher Education, Common Higher Education Area Committee. They are permanent members. So whoever becomes an executive director of National Council is a member, automatically a member of the Quality Assurance Committee. So it works together with the councils and commissions in all these processes. The Inter-University Council is also required to develop criteria for assessing standards and ensuring the quality of teaching, research, and quality assurance mechanisms for self-evaluation. And you will appreciate that the Inter-University Council over the years has developed several standards, the ones we're referring to. Standards for postgraduate training and research and supervision, standards on disability, standards for students' mobility and staff mobility within the region, standards for programs, what we call the benchmark documents of the Inter-University Council for East Africa, and so on and so forth. And all the volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, which provides guidelines for evaluation, self-evaluation and external evaluation. So, but the last one, as you can see, that the council, the Inter-University Council for East Africa, shall ensure quality through endorsing all approved programs by accreditation bodies in the partner states. Endorsing. Take the language is very carefully framed here. Endorsing. So it does not just automatically accredit, but it endorses what has been accredited at the national level. This is what I was talking about, that we are now moving towards that process of providing regional accreditation for programs within the East African region, but after going through the national accreditation or program process. The Inter-University Council for East Africa has used in developing the East African Regional Quality Assurance System, and one of them is development of quality assurance guidelines, standards, procedures, and as I already highlighted, the volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are all in that regard as a strategy for harmonizing the higher education system and for harmonizing the quality assurance system in the region. So we have spent a lot of efforts, and we continue to spend a lot of efforts in the development of standards, procedures, policies, and so on and so forth. Some of the most recent ones we are developing on recognition of prior learning. We are developing policies and procedures for recognition of prior learning. We are developing standards for norms, original norms, among others. The second one is mainstreaming the regional standards, guidelines, and procedures and benchmarks to the national and institutional level. And I want to credit you, institutions in Uganda, for being very active members of HAQAA, especially in the use of its instruments. You can clap for yourself. You deserve it. And can I tell you one thing? There was a survey done by the HAQAA before I joined the organization. They got a consultant to look at the communication system of HAQAA in the region and how information from HAQAA reaches the universities. Can I tell you, to the greatest of my satisfaction, the report says it is the quality assurance officers in the universities that provide information about HAQAA to their member universities. That was the highest rating. I was so excited. And I knew that you were doing extremely fantastic job. So whenever we communicate as HAQAA, it is often you that actually disseminate to your member faculty, students, and so on and so forth. And there are many of these opportunities. So whenever we send this information to you, please disseminate. Because that role you are doing has now been formally recognized as very vital. And that's why the Inter-University Council pays a lot of attention to the quality assurance networks in the countries and in the region. Capacity building has been one of the key things. The Inter-University Council for East Africa has been doing a lot of capacity building to enhance the capacity of quality assurance officers in the region. And this has been an ongoing process, starting from 2007 until it's going on. Myself and Dr. Ochaya were among the pioneer trainees of HAQAA in 2007. And I'm happy that we have continued the journey. We still remain within the quality assurance fraternity. Holding quality assurance dialogue events, and this has been also a continuous process that has been going on, including organizing higher education fora, which bring all the vice chancellors, all the commissions and the councils together to dialogue on a number of higher education developments in the region. And lastly is the quality assurance networking, which has been a very vital instrument in promoting the regional quality assurance processes. Dr. Amala and myself, we are among the pioneer executive members of this network. I always bring this historic photograph for remembrance. This was 2012. So these are 10 years now. HAQAA should be celebrating its 10 years birthday. 10 years. Because it was 2012, now we're in 2022. So those are 10 years, no? So it was 10 years last May, actually. So 10 years of growth. Well, HAQAA is how many years now? 12 of sustained growth as such. So congratulations, HAQAA, and congratulations, HAQAA, for the growth, and especially continuing to build capacity of quality assurance agencies. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to stop here and request if there are comments, questions, I would be glad to take.
Another hand clap, please. Thank you very much. I call him the East African Guru of QA. Another hand clap, but I'm going to die. QA officers. Again. Thank you very much. Oh,
He loves them.
so let's start with the aha moment.
Colleagues, I just to your attention that now the East African community has been declared as a common higher education area. So this, you can grab. This is the instrument. On the 20th of May, 2017, the heads of states of the East African community sat down and declared that now we have matured. The system that we have established in the region is now mature to declare the East African region as a common higher education area. This is a very, very big milestone in recognizing our region as a common higher education area. This document is available online. If you search the East African Community Common Higher Education Area, it should be able to bring you that, signed by all the heads of state of the East African community. I am very proud of this instrument. When you read it, it's talking about what has been done, including the establishment of the East African Quality Assurance Network as an important. It is India, this document. HAQAA is India, recognized by the heads of states as an important instrument in championing quality assurance in the region. So I am very proud about this outcome. But I'm even more particularly proud because it was declared on my birthday.
Oh.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think you've all been excited to pick most of these issues, and I'm sure we all have aha moments from that presentation. Thank you very much, Prof. Before we receive your aha moments, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Prof. Remember, most of us are congratulating him using the platforms. I think this is an opportunity for us to formally congratulate him on this promotion when we can see him. Prof, congratulations. For those of you who have just seen Prof, he'll give you his story, how he has reached where he is. And to me, I think that is an encouragement to all of us to work hard at whatever we decided to put our hands on, and that is QA in our higher education institutions. As Dr. Amal says, the mind is the limit. So I would like to formally congratulate you with our clap. 1, 2, 3. Once more. We wish you all the best to this endeavor. Okay. Now our aha moments. We have how much time do we have? Okay. Any? Yes, you can be following each other one by one. If you see one person here, stand nearby in the interest of time. You want to go answer? You can.
Thank you very much. I'm from a different background, but I was doing these things from a government point of view, but I was very much related with the universities and other training institutions. Just 2 things. One is on mobility of students. We have been struggling right from the other side where I was to work out how we can our students transfer their credits from university to university. Recognized. I don't know your level of involvement at the University Council for East Africa. Of course, your friend is not here, you have told us, but probably Mr. there will provide that. Number 2, in our medical profession, we have HAQAA, which is part of the East Africa, but HAQAA is East Central and Southern Africa, it's extended community. We have developed professional courses. Some of these are fellowships, and they are mounted at the Arusha at our headquarters. We have gone ahead to do harmonization of curriculum. And in terms of inspection, our medical schools are inspected at 2 levels. One by Council for Education here in Uganda, and also we have the South African Council that comes to inspect our universities, our medical schools. Now, are you working together to provide to agree on those standards? To give me hope that if I'm a more obstetrician in Uganda, I take the other ophthalmologist, I take the professional course at Arusha. I'm therefore recognized both in the mainstream education system and the level of profession, because our professional courses are accredited and they are accredited by the needs of the community, which is based on Arusha. Those two questions. Thank you.
Let's make them brief. That is not enough time.
Thank you so much, Prof, for the presentation. I've really learned a lot. I think I used to assume so many things about IUCA. I've learned more. I remember 3 mandates for IUCA. One of them, I wrote them here, promotion of harmonization. Then the other is promotion of research. Another is promotion of quality assurance systems. The part that I'm really interested in, that felt my was aha moment was that promotion of research. What I know, one of the ways how you've been managing to promote that research is mobility. And that mobility has come out, but not the way we have been expecting, especially for staff. Some of us, at least in my university, Uganda Christian University, we apply for that mobility and you don't get a single response. Maybe acknowledgement, or it's like you throw in some abyss area. Please work on that. And then there is that part where you mentioned that these initiatives are sent to universities. What happens in most cases that those initiatives are sent to our VCs and PCs who don't read their emails. They just delete, and the quality assurance officers never get to know. That we've said it over and over again. Please work on it harder. We are requesting that. Otherwise, we miss out a lot on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President. Thank you so much for insightful presentation. My aha moment comes when you make a remark that as stakeholders we must assess the regulatory body and we must ask that question. And what came to my mind is much as we evaluate other units, much as we evaluate others, we must at least evaluate ourselves first. I experienced this last week when I was interviewed by the Director of Institutional Planning at our university, and he was asking me about my achievements as QA. I told him I successfully evaluated staff at campus level, and he was like, "You're a lecturer yourself." Now when you're extracting information, feedback from students, and you find that you're also being underscored, what do you do? So I simply told him that I studied the tool and I make sure I implement at least what the tool requires from the staff. So let's evaluate ourselves before we evaluate others. Thanks for this number.
Any other comments, or they'll come in later? Okay. Before Prof comes in, there are 2-3 issues I noted that I thought we could share. One is the possibility to have our programs pitched at the regional level. So us as the internal QA officers is to make sure that we have our programs accredited at the national level well in time, and then we use that to excite management to allow us start the process of pitching our programs at the regional level. So that, you know, that is the benefit to the university coming from you as a QA officer. 2, I'm happy that we are going to be getting this document, the roadmap to quality volume 5. I'm excited to see what it looks like, and I'm sure so are all of us seated here. Thank you very much, Prof. Then Prof mentioned the recognition of prior learning. I think this is going to open up the education sector even bigger. Because remember, we are having, for example, in the Tibet area, we are having people who have the expertise, for example, playing a brick. You don't have to teach that in school. They know it from the lower levels. So if they want to go up in the academic arena, they have not been having a way of, I think I'm correct, they've not been having a way of how to add on or to have qualifications to actually show the public that I'm able to do A, B, C, D. So I think this is a very good step, and I think it will be added on the East African Qualifications Framework. And let's task National Council to also link the Ugandan Qualifications Framework to the Tibet sector, so that we are able to have that cross-pollination in the education sector of this country. Having said that, I think Prof will welcome you. I want just remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think your remarks are really central to the current discussion and debate, and especially about recognition of prior learning and linking TVET to the other education system. This is very vital, and this is really the developments now at the region and also international at the continental level. We at the IUCA, we just approved a qualifications framework for TVET, and we have already made a linkage between the TVET qualifications framework and the higher education, the East African qualifications framework for higher education. So that linkage now we have made it. So it's very important that we do recognize our experienced, skilled people who have not attained formal education and formal qualifications to be able to grow and become great persons. And that is the path through which they can grow. Mobility of students within the region. The East African community, the IUCA particularly, developed credit accumulation and transfer system policy. That policy is available. And at the national level, the national councils and commissions have equally developed credit accumulation and transfer policies. In Uganda, we have the credit accumulation and transfer policy. Tanzania has a very comprehensive QA handbook that policy, and Kenya and others. Within at the African level, there is already a proposal for the African continental credit accumulation and transfer policy, which is being discussed and considered. So there has been effort to try to establish a system that will recognize students moving from one institution to another, to be able to transfer their credits and proceed with their education accordingly without having to lose what they have attained at any level. For us at IUCA, these are very important instruments because they also facilitate what we have, our program of student mobility within the region. So our students are able to move based on the existing policies as such. So when we give scholarships to students of Uganda going to Kenya or Tanzania, it's part of the mobility program. And that the qualification attained in Uganda can be recognized in Kenya or Tanzania is part of the system of mobility of students. The second question you raised was about accreditation of medical programs, especially at the African level. I am fully aware about the contention and about the challenges of the East African Medical Council and what it has done in the region and the challenges that it has caused in the training of medical professionals in the region, especially when they go ahead and close the medical school, which has been accredited at the national level. It has always been challenged whether they have a legal mandate to close an institution that has been accredited at the national level and so on. But I think after so many years of negotiations and consensus building, the East African Medical Council has now come to realize that they have to work in consultation with the other agencies, including the national councils and commissions and the national professional bodies in the country. The Uganda National Medical and Dental Practitioners Council in Uganda and also in the other countries. So they have now learned to work with these agencies so that their decisions cannot be challenged. They posed a very serious problem in Tanzania to the extent that the Parliament of Tanzania had to come in and intervene. I know they caused also the same problem here in Uganda. I know here suffered a bit of that pain and so on. But I think now continuously this is being harmonized. We have been also in pain as IUC that we are the ones with the legal mandate in the region to oversee the quality of higher education in the region. But this medical council has not been working with us. So you see the problem. So we have also been disappointed, but now at least there's consensus that we're moving forward together. Professor Sarah, you raised the issue of research and mandate of IUCA, and particularly the issue of staff mobility. Now, these are two things. One, that the research mandate of IUCA is still very, I must say, is still very limited. We have not expanded on that mandate fully because of lack of staff. We have not had sufficient staff at the Secretariat to coordinate research in the region. But now we have already recruited staff in the Research and Innovations Unit, and that function and that mandate, I'm sure, is going to begin to shine the way quality assurance has progressed. That's one. But we have already been promoting researchers, a number of researchers in the region, which are ongoing, and others have been concluded at the regional level. But your major concern was about the staff mobility program. One, that this program is not widely disseminated. And two, when institutions apply, you don't receive feedback. There are two ways. By the way, this is one of the programs that is very much appreciated by higher education institutions in the region. Monica, Kabari, you even made it public in your graduation, acknowledging IUCA for supporting the staff mobility and bringing experts to Kabari University.
We have like two from Tanzania and one from Rwanda, and our two staff also.
And you also sent two out as such. So it's one of the programs that has really been highly appreciated. But
yes, what Dr. Rita said, sending letters to vice chancellors.
She's the one who said
okay,
that.
Because our Vice Chancellor is very keen on that.
Yeah,
How she receives letters from inter-university, she sends to staff.
yeah.
And maybe you may find her VC is too busy to read those mails.
Yeah, that is the issues he was raising about the dissemination and communication. Now, most of these IUCA opportunities are available on the website. All of them actually, including the student and staff mobility program. So from time to time, please interest yourself, go to the IUCA website and download any opportunity that is announced there. The staff mobility, I want to emphasize, the staff mobility is extremely important, even for QA. But I know that our universities have not been utilizing that. It has always been a staff coming to teach or a staff going to teach. But this program also will support staff coming for QA activities, including external examination. You know, external examination is a QA process. So you can get an external person to come and do external examination, and is paid under the IUCA staff mobility program. That's a QA process. You can also collaborate with another QA person in another university to spend some time there, to benchmark, to work together on certain policies and programs, together, jointly. Or the other way around, you can invite someone from another country to come. So it's open, it's a staff mobility. It doesn't say teaching staff, it is a staff mobility program. Yeah, so please, you can apply, but the best thing, Sarah, to respond specifically to your concern, the best thing is always to identify the expert from outside first, and agree with that expert, even on the time frame, even on the activities, and then you apply jointly. Rather than you apply and we want experts in this area. So it takes the council time to find an equivalent expert match with your interest. But if you have already negotiated, discussed, and agreed with an expert, maybe from Kenya or from Tanzania, you apply jointly, and the document provides for you to sign all. Once you do that and you submit, the process is much easier. And I think that's what HAQAA has been doing. Busitema has been doing that quite a lot. In fact, at one point, Busitema staff, Busitema was benefiting highest in terms of the staff mobility program. So take interest and pursue that. And lastly, my sister Amina has emphasized the issue of self-assessment. We need to pay attention to self-assessment, including as QA units. We need to do our own assessment of our system continuously, so that you can actually improve on your system. That's why in the national application training we have been emphasizing on self-assessment of your system. Know how your system operates and how you can respond to the needs of your institution better. But to take that principle, self-assessment also starts with you yourself. Thank you very much.